Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. And joining me in studio as we continue to take a look at the 2018 election season. And one of the more interesting races, I believe, is the race in the Republican primary for Lubbock County Judge. And joining us for a second time in studio to talk about her race for Lubbock County Judge is current Lubbock City Councilwoman Karen Gibson.
Morning.
How are you?
Great.
Good.
It's Monday morning.
It is. And so how's the campaign going?
Just going good. Doing a lot of block walking and talking to people, talking to groups, and campaigning.
When you
fun part.
When you talk to people, I always like and asking candidates about this when they're knocking on doors, talking to people. Mm-hmm. And especially something for Lubbock County Judge, probably a position that, and you would probably know this by knocking on doors, maybe a position not a lot of people know what a judge does, why it would impact them, why they should care about that election. Are you getting those questions from people?
Yeah, when they hear county judge, they think of a judge, a court at law judge,
right.
And so they don't really know what a county judge actually does. And so you spend time educating people on what it actually is. And it's been so long since we've had an actual election on county judge that's kind of gone by the wayside.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. What are some of the what are some of the concerns that people, when you knock on their door and you talk to them, what are the concerns people do have?
Two things I keep hearing over and over and over: public safety and roads. Public safety and roads. And you hear that over and over and over. So I think, and I've said it from the start of my campaign, those are public safety encompasses roads, in my opinion. So I think since the start of my campaign, I've been focused on that.
Well, and what is it that, let's say you're elected, how would, at least when it comes to roads, because every candidate that I have who comes through here who's running for county judge or county commissioner, we're going to take care of the roads. We're going to take care of the roads. And then, 3 or 4 months after the election, I hear from people, no one's taking care of our roads. Or a year later, no one's taking care of our roads. So what would you do differently?
I think I would encourage, and the county commissioners actually take care of their precincts as far as the roads go. But I think you lead them, you guide them, you lead the plan, you lead how that works. Woodrow Road is a prime example, and I think everybody can comprehend Woodrow Road simply because the growth has gone that way, and that road, nothing has been done. Now, I think the state, the county commissioners may have probably been waiting on the state to do something. The state's not going to do anything. That should have been, in my opinion, on the MPO plan. I sit on the MPO along with some commissioners and the county judge present. So I think that should have been pushed more, possibly. That's how you get that done. You scream, yell, and holler at the MPO level. That's how I got Upland done. And you get those pushed through, the ones that need to be done, along with the other county roads.
So what would if you win, what would that process look like in order to get Woodrow taken care of?
I think you go into the budget and you look for the savings to get that done. I know they have started on I believe the environmentals. They've started on that process. They have finally begun moving forward, but it's taken a lot of time. It's taken a lot of citizen uproar. It's taken a lot of media uproar to get that done. I think you have to stay ahead of the game. That area has been growing and been moving forward for a long time. This is not a surprise. So I think you have to just stay ahead of the game. And being on city government, we try to do that. We try to stay ahead of the game. Now, Upland caught up with us, but I screamed about Upland for 5 years, and we finally got it done. But that's how you do it. You just have to stay on top of it. And the money's limited. The money is limited. I don't care if you're in city or county government. So you have to prioritize. Where's your priorities? What needs it right now, and then you work on the rest of them, but your high priority gets the majority of the pot, and then you work on the rest of them.
Is that something where, as judge, if you're elected, because again, each commissioner, they're in charge of their
right.
precinct, So is that something where you try to work with everybody and say, okay, I know you want to get this taken care of in your precinct, but we need to focus on this area?
Yeah, I think you all sit at the table. I think you all come to the table and say, where are the priorities? We sit down, we talk, we come together as a group, and what are the priorities?
Is that lacking right now?
In my opinion, yes.
And so that's where there would be people would see a big difference.
If I was elected county judge, yes.
Let me ask about the judge side of things. One of your opponents is an attorney, and whether it's ads on the air or here on this show brings up, hey, there is a legal part of this, and you need an attorney to be there for this legal part of it. How do you answer to that?
I completely disagree with that. The role of a county judge in a large county of, say, 255,000, 300,000 or over is administrative. The judicial part of that in every county in the state of Texas in 255,000 or over are pushed down to the courts. They either have a probate court or it's pushed down into the courts. No county in the state of Texas that's over 255,000, their county judge does not handle the probates or the guardianships. Excuse me.
So as county judge, you wouldn't have any kind of any judicial, I guess.
Well, I still have the opportunity, but I don't know that I would do that. I think you have to take a look at what encompasses, and your job is mainly your job is budget, public safety, and funding, finding savings in the budget to fund all of that stuff. And that encompasses the majority of your time in a county this size. This is a big county.
Right.
We're growing up. We have grown up, and it doesn't just encompass Lubbock. You've got Slayton, you've got Idlew, Wolforth, Shallowater, New Deal. You've got all of those other towns and cities that encompasses Lubbock County. So you have to take in the whole thing. And I think once you get to that certain size, it is prudent to not take that state stipend of $25,000 and give that to the courts and let them handle that.
Let's talk about when it comes to moving over from city council to the county. What does your time on the city council, what does that experience mean? What can you take from that city council job and bring over to county judge?
Well, a big part of that is, I've said many times, the inefficiencies in the way we interface with the county and city, that they interface together. I've seen it for the last 8 years. I do think there are many, many places that we can interface together efficiently and make the money go further. And I'm not talking about just Lubbock. I think, once again, all of these smaller cities around Lubbock, we can do the same thing and just make everybody's money go further. Health, parks, roads are huge. When we're all out there and in it together, you can just make so much more use of the funds available in municipality and county.
Right now, what is the relationship like between the city and the county?
As far as the county commissioners and the city council, we all get along great. That's not the issue.
Right.
What the issue is that the governments don't work together. It's not that we don't get along as people and as elected officials. The governments don't work together. So if you've got, let's say, a pothole 600 feet inside the city limits, and you've got county working on potholes, they call the city and say, you've got a pothole 600 feet inside the city limits, you need to come fix it. Well, that's ludicrous. That's a waste of time. It's a waste of money on both parts. Get it fixed, and let's all come to the table and figure out, how do we work together in that? That's inefficiency. You're right there. You're fixed. You've already got the equipment out. Why would you dispatch a whole nother crew? And that's just one very small example.
Does that set up turf battles in any way, where if you're going to, I don't want to say combined services, because I know that's not what you're talking about, but if you're going to, if you're going to have, the county and the city working together, as far as the government's working together more efficiently, does that create turf battles?
But I think that's what you have to get past. I think you have to get past the territorial, this is my turf.
Right.
I think you have to literally, once again, I say, come to the table and how do we make this work for the greater good of the county? And how do we make this work for the greater efficiency of everybody's money?
Visiting with Councilwoman Karen Gibson, who is running the Republican primary for Lubbock County Judge. When we come back, we'll continue. We have many more topics to get into. Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. In studio, Councilwoman Karen Gibson, running for Lubbock County Judge, GOP primary. And let's see, this. I think people have about a week left to register to vote, so remember about that. And then early voting starts here in a few weeks, just around the corner. Mm-hmm. Karen, the last time you were on with Matt and Dave here on KFYO, and it was a city issue brought up about the Coliseum and Auditorium, and you had mentioned the possibility of a dirt track arena. And you had mentioned that, partnering maybe with the county and that there are other arenas, like county livestock arenas or county arenas around the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. As county judge, is that something you'd be pushing for?
I think everybody has to come to the table in this instance with Texas Tech, the city, the county, I think the Fair Board even needs to come to the table in this instance. The way this was all set up, if that goes back, it goes back to Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech needs to come to the table also. So I think you've got a lot of entities involved here that need to be involved, not just the city and the county, not just the city, not just the county. I think there's a lot of people, a lot of entities that need to be involved in this dirt arena or dirt venue, if you will.
Is that something where you could see, at least on the county level, that taxpayers in the county would be asked to at least chip in for an arena?
I think you put it to a vote if it gets to that point. I think you see what the people want. And I think the first step, we need to remember the first step is to see what the citizens of Lubbock want to do with it. Right. I don't think you can make any decision whatsoever until we know what the citizens of Lubbock want to do with the auditorium and Coliseum.
If and I know in the past you supported, and you were one of the few that I know of elected officials, and not on a statewide level who were elected, but on a citywide or countywide level, you're one of the few who supported a property tax increase limit without it, before it gets kicked Absolutely. Back to the voters. And we'll get to what the governor brought up about a week or two ago. But if the county asks taxpayers to foot the bill for, or at least a little bit of the bill for an arena, can you hold to that issue of saying we don't want to raise property taxes beyond 4%, 5%, 6%?
Sure. I mean, I think you do. I think you either support it or you don't. So yeah, I do. And once again, I think you'd look at all of the entities coming in to work on that. I don't think you're going to get there. I don't think you would even get to that point. I'm not sure how that's going to look. I'm not sure what that would actually look like. I think it probably needs to be a public-private partnership. It can look so many different ways. I go back to the first step is seeing what the citizens of Lubbock want to do with it.
Right.
You can't really determine what you're going to do forward until you know what these citizens want to do with that complex.
In theory, would you be supportive of the county funding it 100%?
No.
Okay.
No, so I don't think that's
it would
fair.
have to be something that ideally private. If that's not going to happen, everyone comes to the table and has a piece in it.
I think I think you should actually really, really push for a public-private partnership in some manner.
Let's talk about property taxes. We brought up, how you felt about the property tax. Some call it a cap, whatever you want to call it, but an automatic trigger where it would go to an election if it went. Lawmakers were pushing anywhere from an increase in property taxes from 4 to 6% in the last legislative session. Governor came out, I believe last week, said 2.5%, but we're not going to give you anything that's, we're not going to do these so-called unfunded mandates anymore. How do you feel about that?
I don't have a problem in the world with it. I think a big part of what you see is unfunded mandates. A big part of what you see funded is unfunded mandates. So I think I don't have a problem with that at all. I think they're going to take care of a lot of that. It'll be interesting to see how much they follow through with the unfunded mandates, but I don't have a problem with that. I'm not sure it'll end up at 2.5. Wouldn't bother me if it did. I do think if they do that, they'll carve out the smaller populated counties for obvious reasons.
And last time that did not include Lubbock, though. Correct? So Lubbock would not have been carved out. Would you be okay with that?
I'm fine. I was fine with it last time.
Sure. And the relationships there, because there are at least 2 current county commissioners, one of whom is in an election right now. But there are 2 county commissioners who were totally against what the Republicans and what the governor had pushed in the last legislative session. If, let's say, we're in the next legislative session, you're county judge, 3 of you are invited to go and testify, you would most likely be on the opposite end of them.
Yes.
How would that relationship work?
I've been on the opposite end of city council members many, many times. You can disagree agreeably. I feel the way I feel. I'm 1 vote. I would be 1 vote of 5. So I don't think just because you disagree with one of the commissioners that it tears you apart. Right. I think you build those relationships. You learn what everybody feels and what everybody thinks and how they'll move forward in their voting and so forth. But it doesn't destroy the relationship. I've been on the opposite end many times with many of the council members.
Do you think there's a possibility, and last time we had you on the show, you said, I'm good at budgets. I've gone through the budget, the city council budget. I'm good at budgeting. When it comes to the county level, not only can we hopefully get a hold on, the property tax issue, do you think there might be room to actually lower taxes in the next few years? I
think you go through the budget line by line, just like I've always done. And absolutely, if you can lower that, you lower it. If you can, and with the growth in the county, but at the same time, you have to do it responsibly. You've got roads that have to be fixed. You've got roads that have to be done, and you can't continue to give yourself raises. That to me is a no-brainer. That just does not happen. And then not handle the roads and then lower the property tax, because that's what they've been doing, giving themselves raises, not taking care of the roads, and then lowering the property tax, even if it's just a minute part of a cent. But that's not responsible. You're not taking care of what you have, and that's got to be done.
Well, and you've seen that on the city level.
I have seen it on the city level.
We talk about the Auditorium Coliseum.
But that's the problem. The bond for the Auditorium Coliseum was passed in 2004. The first bids came out in 2010. Yeah. That is ludicrous. Yeah. And the reason that happened is because the council in 24 and 5 didn't want to raise the taxes, that the people said, okay, we want this done.
Right.
But they still didn't want to say they were the ones that raised the taxes. But that's not responsible, because they chose, the people chose to take care of it. And the council said, no, we don't want to do that because we don't want to raise taxes. That's not responsible.
When it comes to maintenance of county, obviously you have roads, county buildings as well. Is that something that you're going to take a look at?
I mean, I think you have to take care of it. I've seen what it does. We're having to take care of the community centers. The auditorium is a huge issue. All of these buildings that the city has now, we're having to take care of that because it wasn't before. So, yes, I think that is something you look at the county level. Absolutely.
Councilwoman Karen Gibson, a Republican candidate for Lubbock County Judge, as always, appreciate your time. And
Thank you,
I know we'll have you in before early voting starts again.
Appreciate it. Thank you.